Hey everybody, how's everybody doing today? Welcome to my photo chat live stream where we come together as photographers and talk about photography. And as always, I like the audience to drive the conversation. So if you have any questions or want my opinion on anything, or particularly in uh, any questions about gear or photography techniques and things like that. It's that time of year, at least here in the United States. We're doing our 250th celebration for the 4th of July, which means lots of fireworks. And I went to a fireworks event last night, and I'll share some of my images from that. I haven't had a chance to edit too many yet, but I got two or three out, and I also went to an air show where the Blue Angels were flying, and that was a lot of fun. And then also a couple other shots. I went to uh, after the air show, I went to have dinner with my friends uh, that I haven't been to that place in 7 years, and I took a selfie 7 years ago. And then I took another selfie when I was there last week, and we kind of compare, how I've changed since then. It's just interesting to me. I don't know if you guys want to see, but I thought it was kind of a cool shot. And then maybe a couple other shots in there. I'm not sure. We'll take a look. But that's what's been going on with me and what I'm going to share today. Another thing is I'm still waiting for my Lumix L10 to come in. It looks like it's out of stock again at B&H, which is one of the largest camera distributors here in the area or in the US. And I found one on eBay. It's going for $2,300, which is, $800 over the list price. So the Lumix L10, I'm pretty excited for it to come in, but I did take out my Leica Deluxe last night for some photography, and I did a few shots while I was at the bar that I went to, the Tiki Bar. So I'll share that as well. And because the Leica Deluxe is pretty much the LX100 Mark II, and a lot of people look at the L10 as sort of a iteration of this generation of cameras. I know a lot of people are hoping it's not because it is substantially larger, but larger than this. But I still consider a relatively compact camera. It's smaller than my OM3, about the same size as my Pen F, and these are all nice everyday cameras to carry around. And the L10 should be uh, a really nice addition to that. Not a replacement in any way to my OM3 or Pen F for that matter. Those are my I guess what you call cameras for life, right? So let's go ahead and get into the chat section and welcome all of you here. I see Anthony's here. Very good. And you already have a question up there. So we will take a look. And Darko is here. Good to see you. Lots of comments there from Darko. So I'll go through those. And Jeff Painter, always good to see you. Jeff's been with me, and as many of you, been with me such a long time, but he's very, very consistent of coming into every single live stream, whether it's my editing live streams, my shopping live streams, and then my normal photo chats. Uh, and let's see. John is here. Good to see you. And Wayne, always good to see you. And Manuel, good to see you. And Manuel is also pretty consistent, as well as many, but relatively new. Um, So it's good to see you. And if there's anybody new here, just drop a hello and where you're from in the chat section. I'd love to. I'm always happy to see new members here, or new participants, I should say. And Paul, good to see you. Sebastian, good to see you. And let's see, Serge, good to see you. Serge is another one. And Roberto, good to see you guys. And that's why I keep doing this, because it's such a great community, and I'm so happy many of you have been able to connect with me through, YouTube, for so many years, and not just through YouTube, but with me, right? We're like-minded, so to speak. Bob, good to see you. And let's see. Um, and Wayne, you're also thinking of buying the L10. So I'll share a few more thoughts on that because there's been a lot of reviews have come out. And, I know it's pretty much a known quantity what the camera is. So I'll share what I've been thinking about it lately. And Clint, good to see you. And Larry and the great Vanzini, of course, another long-term supporter, member, and been here forever on every stream consistently. But okay, let me get into the questions. It says, Anthony says, I'm curious how many of you are there actually use and operate your camera in the winter in extreme cold conditions below 10 Celsius while wearing winter gloves is a must. That's going to be very, very small percentage. Just relative to just general population. And then the percentage of population that actually are photographers is smaller than that. And the percentage of OM system shooters would be even less than that. But you're not asking if they're OM system users, right? Just photographers. So yeah, if you can chime in on that for Anthony, that would be great. And Anthony says, I had no issues operating an EM1 when wearing winter gloves. The EM1 is a different story. I cannot feel the shutter. Yeah, we talked about that a few weeks ago. The way the shutter button is on the EM1s, it had the front dial wrapped around the shutter button, right? And now the front dial has been moved off of the shutter button so that now the shutter button is very difficult to feel through gloves. And good morning, Darko. Let's see. Doing well, doing well. I hope everyone is doing well. And oops. And I did see the link to that video. I forget the guy's name. It's a little hard for me to pronounce. Uh, I didn't watch the video. I don't really connect with his style of teaching too well, so I didn't just jump on it when I saw the link to it. Um, but I'll watch it. Basically, it was a video about. Let me see if I can pull it up. Uh, I mean, he's an excellent educator on YouTube, I think, and does communicate and articulate extremely well, much better than I do. But I will try and find it and share it here with the. Here it is.
Hey everybody, and welcome to a new video. Why do some photographs immediately?
So this is called the most important photography skill. I'll put a link to it in the chat here. So if you guys want to check this out, what's this guy's name? Oh, Simon. Well, I can pronounce Simon. The Entremont looks good. And some of the feedback here, possibly the most useful photography ever done in an age of clickbait titles and content. Yeah, okay. Anyway, for whatever reason, I'm not a big fan, but he's got 793,000 subscribers. Basically, 30, 40 times what I do here on my channel. So it's a testament to the work he's doing, I think. So, like I said, I don't want to put any shade on his work. I'm just saying that I personally don't connect with his style. Uh, but you might, and you might love it, and many of you are probably familiar with him. And he, like I said, he certainly has a lot of subscribers. Let's see. And Darko says, I bought the 85 f3.5 VR from Micro. Okay, that's a macro lens. For those of us in every other camera system, they call them macro, but Nikon calls it micro, which makes more sense to me. But anyhow, so it's a 135 equivalent. You still have your 60 micro, but the VR helps with the Z50. Okay. Oh, the Z52 doesn't have IBIS? Thought it did. Um, okay. And are you planning fireworks photography soon? Any advice and techniques? Yes, I can do that. How to attempt that without Olympus Live Comp? I mean, with regular mirrorless cameras. Okay, so absolutely. Uh, so these are the basic tips, right? Um, let me see if I can just type it out. So we'll do, you want to be in manual or bulb mode, shutter speed, 3 to 4 seconds, aperture, f11, and ISO 100, white balance 5000K or sunny. Remote. So other gear you're going to need is a lens, and this will be roughly, we'll say full frame would be a 20, I would say between 16 to 24 millimeters. On APS-C, you probably want a 17 to 35. And on, well, I'm sorry, let's say 10 to 17. And then I think 10 to 18 is a common zoom. I'll just say that. And then on Micro Four Thirds, we're going to be 7 to 14 millimeters. And of course, a sturdy tripod. And a remote shutter release, either wired or wireless. And okay. So I think this is right. So you want to be in manual or bulb mode. You're going to use a shutter speed 3 or 4 seconds, and this is going to vary based on how big the fireworks are. Because some fireworks are huge, right? And they take 5 or 6 seconds to totally bloom. So you may need to extend that a little bit. And other fireworks, like I go to smaller ones here locally, 3 to 4 seconds is enough, sometimes even 2 seconds. And then aperture f11, ISO 100. So if you're going to shoot at base ISO, say 200, like on a lot of cameras, particularly in Micro Four Thirds, you could probably go at f8. And then you want to fix your white balance, because the auto white balance is going to get confused with all the different colors of the fireworks. So you want consistent white balance shot to shot. So I would fix your white balance. And The lenses I'm recommending here is you have a relatively close, you're in relative close proximity to the firework where they're being shot off. So at smaller events, you want to be wider at 16 millimeters on full frame or 10 millimeters on APS-C, and then 7 millimeters on Micro Four Thirds. So you want to be really as wide as possible because they can bloom and they can go up pretty high. If you're in very close proximity, you need a really wide angle lens. And then the further you go out, you know, generally, 24 millimeters, 18, what you see listed above. And if you're even further out, you might need even a longer lens. Like when I shoot if I go to the fireworks, these DC fireworks, I'll probably be across the river in a different state, which, they butt up against each other, only separated by a river, Virginia and DC. But I'll be probably 2, 3 miles away, in which case I'll probably need a much longer lens, like my Micro Four Thirds 40 to 150. Uh, you definitely want a sturdy tripod because you don't want to have any shake at all in the image unless you're going for some kind of a creative effect. And then also you want to have a shutter release, and there's a lot of wired and wireless shutter releases available. Uh, some might be able to even get away with using the app, although, you know, I've never done it that way, but I don't see why not. It's got a remote shutter release built into the app. Most of them do. And then, you know, I would not use live comp. Okay. The problem with live comp is it's a two-step process, right? You push the shutter button for the initial exposure uh, and acquire focus, I believe. No, just to get the initial exposure. And then the second shot, you have to acquire focus and start the exposure. So you have press to acquire the focus, then you um, fully press to start the live comp. And then when that first bloom ends, you'll capture it, but then you have to do that process over and over again. And it's really awkward and you're going to miss a lot of shots. So I don't think live comp is an ideal way to do fireworks. It's easier just to do bulb because you're going to be in pitch black, so you don't have to worry about light accumulating in the shot, because you have one of the firework trails going out. It's not staying in the same position where the light would start to build. It's constantly moving through with a very dark background. So there's no need to do live comp. You're not going to really gain anything, and the workflow is too awkward. And then when it comes to focusing, what I like to do, typically fireworks, the smaller ones, last about 15 to 20 minutes. So what I do is when the first firework blooms, I set my autofocus point into the area where it's going to bloom, and um, well, the way I do it is I've tried to pre-focus on a point that's where I think the fireworks are going to be in the sky. And then I move the focus point up to where the fireworks are. And then when the first one blooms, I use SAF and I lock focus on the bloom. And then I change the manual focus. That's the most generic way to do it. The way I do it on my OM system cameras is I put the camera into manual focus. I set my AEL button or back button focus button, depending which camera you have. And I leave that to autofocus on, so that when the firework blooms, I hit the AEL button or the AF button, back button focus, to lock focus on that, and then I don't have to touch it again because the camera's in manual focus. So you can leave it in manual focus for the rest of the fireworks. Because you don't want the camera to constantly try and refocus, which is a problem I have with my Leica. I took this It was constantly refocusing and it missed a couple of shots because I don't know this camera well enough yet to get the workflow that I had on my OM3. I used my OM3 last night. So that's the focus. And then when it comes to the remote shutter release, you just wait for the firework to shoot up, and then you start the exposure, and then as it starts to bloom, you get everything there, and then you let go of the shutter button to stop the bulb mode. So that's bulb mode. The way I shoot fireworks is I set up my intervalometer, and I set the intervalometer to start 2 seconds after I start to release the shutter. So I don't need a shutter release or remote shutter release button. I start the shutter 2 seconds after. These are my intervalometer settings. And then 1 second delay, which is the smallest number. 1 second delay between each exposure. And then I set my exposure to 4 seconds, right? So I have a 4 second exposure. All the aperture, ISO, shutter that I just showed here, I set my exposure to 4 seconds, and then 1 second delay, and then I start the intervalometer, and I set the intervalometer to be take 999 shots, and then I set it to create the movie after. I haven't even looked at the movies it created from last night. So that's what you do, right? It's pretty straightforward, and I can share a couple of shots, and I'll do that in a few minutes with most of those settings. Now you want to adjust your, I think I mentioned this, but on the exposure, if you're at ISO 200, you can shoot at f8. So you just adjust your exposure and full stops either way. And then I do a lot of post-processing. You know, I can show you the straight out of camera images, and then I'll show you a couple where I post-processed. Okay. And John says you never get notifications. Yeah, that's been an issue since I started live streaming. You only get the notification when I go live, not like when I post a live stream. Like I posted it last night, or I scheduled it last night to start today, but it doesn't email you or let you know that I've scheduled a live stream, and that in there lies the problem. Hopefully they can change that. And Canada Day is July 1st. Well, happy Canada Day. And let's see. If there's any other questions? It sounds like a lot of people asking for tips. So, okay, good. Hopefully those are good tips. If you have any questions about that, I'll try and address them when I'm showing the images. And Bob says, and Bob Dickey is also relatively new. Or, you know, since YouTube changed the format so that we see the user ID and not the username, a lot of you have been with me a long time, but I don't recognize the user ID. So now it's starting to click. It takes me a while. So you bought the Mini-Core 63 tripod you recommended during okay, cool. Was that the $20 one? I guess it was a $20 tripod. It's pretty good. And it's still $20. Let me take a quick look which one it is. Yeah, 20 bucks. So, as you know, it was Amazon Prime Day. Go to robtrek.com/deals. Should be a link down below in the description for that. But it's this tripod here. And a lot of these are still on sale. Not as discounted as it was on Prime Day. But this is a great tripod for 20 bucks. You can do way worse for $20 on a tripod, but this tripod is really, really good. And you know, I use it as a backup tripod. I use this in my studio now because I have so many tripods, but I use this in my studio a lot when I'm just doing test shots and things. And it's a great tripod, very sturdy, nice ball head, etc. So just go to my deal page, robtrek.com/deals, and I have a bunch of stuff here. This is the last of the memory. The memory keeps going up, so you need to. These are the only ones. This is still relatively old stock. Like it's probably only a month old, but it's in a month from now, these prices are going to be even higher. So if you need a memory card, and only if you need one, now's, you know, these are the best deals I could find. Okay. Uh, but I'm sure you'll be very happy with it. You know, for a $20 tripod, it's really good. And oh, thank you for the sound check. I did fix the sound. What happened this week, for whatever reason, this microphone over here was linking directly to the laptop through Bluetooth, and the audio quality is awful when I do it that way. It wasn't connecting to, um, you know, I use this, which is on sale right now, by the way, $79 on my deal page. Anyway, I use this wireless microphone system. I plug it directly into, when I plug the bass directly into the laptop, then the sound is good. So that's what happened. And I couldn't figure it out. I didn't realize the mic was connecting directly to the laptop. Okay. I mean, the sound was acceptable, but terrible. And thanks for the mobile UK. Uh, mobile UK. Oh, okay, sure. It should. I think Amazon automatically redirects the links that I post to whatever country you're in. It probably works 50% of the time. I don't know. I hardly make any UK or anything outside of the US. I hardly make any affiliate commissions from that, unfortunately, through Amazon. But either way, I'm just happy everyone got a good deal. And I feel like I missed a question. Oh, here it is. So a few Sundays ago, I asked about the not working flash on the OM1. I checked all the settings. In the end, I sent back and replaced with another one. And the first, okay, got it, got it. So that's what you mean. The first one definitely didn't work. Thanks for the mobile UK. I'm sorry, I got confused. All right, awesome. I'm glad that worked. So it was the flash was defective. Because yeah, all I remember was this is all you need to do, it should work. I vaguely remember that conversation, but I'm glad you got that resolved. And let's see. MPV UK. Okay. Not mobile UK. I need to learn to read ahead a little bit. Okay. And Bob says, I was gifted an Alien Beast 320. Excellent brand. I will use it with the V1 Pro. Is the 250 and 5.6 a good starting point? Yes. Uh, that's with the intent to have a black frame, meaning you don't want any ambient light in the scene. Then you would start at 1/250th at 5.6. Uh, yeah, in a studio. When you go outdoors, settings can be a lot different. Let me just put it that way. But indoors, studio, in your house, whatever, if you're indoors, that would be the settings you'd use to try to start with to remove all of the ambient light so that the only light that the camera will see is whatever the flashes are. And Jessup asks, what are the highlight shadows in the bottom left in play mode? Let me take a quick look. It would help to know what camera you have because there's been minor changes. But when you're in play mode, I don't see, at least on my OM3, I don't see it. But I think the I'm just going to take a guess. Like here's one of the fireworks. You see, okay, so you see it blinking. Those are the shadow indicators telling me that, this is underexposed. I don't see any highlight indicators blinking, but they would blink red, for example. Let me just turn the brightness down, then maybe you'll be able to see it. So you should be able to see that. See the red blinkies? I assume that's what it is. But there's also highlight shadow settings in certain color modes, certain art filters. So it may be that as well, where you actually do in-camera processing of the raw image to create a JPEG, but you can adjust the highlight and shadows. So it could be that. It could be what I just showed with the highlight shadow blinkies. It's a little hard for me to figure it out without seeing the screen and what camera you have. And good morning, Julio. Good to see you from Florida. Very nice. Very nice. And hello, good to see you. This is CJ. And so lots of new people. That's awesome. I'm really happy about that. And Paul, good to see you. I have actually achieved some good results using LiveCom for fireworks. You can see it developing in the viewfinder and decide when to stop. So LiveCom, yeah, you can absolutely use LiveCom. It's going to work almost exactly the same as bulb mode in terms of exposure, right? Because whether you're in bulb mode or in LiveCom, the way fireworks fire does not affect bulb mode or LiveCom differently. It treats them it affects the camera exactly the same. You could use LiveCom, I think, more effectively on larger firework displays. But we also have a feature called Live Bulb, where you can see the exposure build without having to go through that two-step process. So if you have an OM System Olympus camera, there's a feature called Live Bulb, where when you start bulb mode, the exposure will build right there on your live view. I've not done it that way. Maybe I'll try and do that later this week. But there is a feature called Live Bulb, which is sort of one step back from doing live comp. And in my film days, I would leave it in bulb mode and just cover the lens and get 2 or 3 bursts of 1 frame. Great for smaller fireworks shows. So I think the idea of covering the lens is when you start the exposure manually, it minimizes any kind of camera shake, right? And also you can just leave the shutter open, just mirror lockup, right? And just use a black card in front of the lens and just open it when the fireworks bloom, and then shut it. And then when the next firework goes up, you can double expose it, get the next one, come back down, etc., etc. Assuming the fireworks go in different directions or overlap if you want that effect. But I think the intent was to, particularly if you didn't have a cable shutter release, was when you push the shutter button, you don't introduce that camera shake into the exposure by covering, by covering the lens, right? Like this, covering the lens. Whoops. you would cover the lens with a black card, start the exposure, and then when the firework blooms, you just lift up and come down. Anyway, I've never done it, but thinking it through, I think that's what that would do. Yeah, the $20 one, awesome. And an OMD EM1 Mark II. Ooh, okay. So I have an EM5 Mark III, which is, for all intents and purposes, an EM1 Mark II. And that would be here. Let me turn this off. So when I push play, bottom left. Oh, all right. So this is, oh, you can't see it. Let me dim the screen. I know exactly what that is now. Okay, so if you look, you can see it says shadow highlight in the bottom. And what that's telling you is that it's in shadow highlight indicator mode. So if there were any clipped highlights or shadows in this picture, you would see those blinkies like I showed on the OM3. I don't know if I have any. Let me try and do one real quick. This is a good example. Okay. Not a great example. Hold on. Let me change. So right now, okay, I don't have the highlight shadow blinky on, right? You don't see the little indicator down here. But if I hit the info button, make sure I hit the info button, yeah. If I hit the info button and I click it again, I toggle through the different playback modes. But now we have the highlight shadow indicator on, and now it's showing the blue blinkies where the shot's underexposed, and then the red blinkies where the shot's overexposed. So when you see this, that's telling you that you're in highlight shadow indicator mode. But if I click the info button, you can toggle through. This is image only. This is image with, EXIF data. Not EXIF data. This is the image with EXIF data, and it inherently shows the highlight shadow blinkies. So if you go into the menu, and let's see, it's under the D menu, I believe. Yeah. So you go into the settings menu, which is the one with the wrench, go into D menu, and then you want to go up here to, what does that say? Info settings, which is, yeah, so you want to go into info settings and then click on that. And then there's a right arrow here. So click on that to go into there. And then you can turn on or off the different things that you would toggle through. So you can see I have highlight shadow toggled on right now. And I have the overall toggled. So I can turn this off. I can turn off the image only. And then let's do histogram. Or yeah, let's turn on histogram because that wasn't on. Okay. And then now when I push play, so I have the basic info here with the time date stamp. I have the Instagram now when I toggle, and now I have the highlight shadow thing. So you can just toggle, and then I can turn on, right? I can turn everything on. And now when I play that image, if I hit the info button, it's going to toggle through everything. Lightbox is one I don't use very much, but it's kind of an interesting feature where you can toggle through all the images on your card and compare it next to the last image that you took. So Lightbox, I don't use it, but it can be useful, particularly if you're comparing exposures and maybe art filters. I don't know. Okay. Thank you for the shutter and aperture with Allen B's and V1. Yep, you're welcome. And you purchased the Godox IT32 on Prime Day sale. Very impressed with this cable. Yes. It's a little bit tricky. You know, I have a couple of videos on using it with off-camera flash. So, but let me show you a quick shortcut page. You might want to do a screenshot of this. Anybody that has the IT32, do a screenshot of this. Let me make it a little larger. Oh, I got to show you this funny picture. Okay, so this is the IT32 using it with off-camera flash. It's a little daunting at first, but when you watch my video, this will make a lot more sense. Okay, so just search my video for IT32 and you'll see two videos for off-camera flash. But just read this part in the notes. The X5 will fire all Godox X compatible triggers on the same channel regardless of group and ID, unless you specifically turn off group A, B, and C. The X5 plus and minus buttons only work on IT32 flashes for group A, and X5 TTL manual toggling only work on group A. So there's a lot of fine print here. Okay, when TTL works, when it does not. So for example, if you have the X5 on camera and you have an IT32, oops, I need to scroll up a little bit. There we go. Now do a screenshot. I'm sorry, I didn't realize I cut off this row. So if you have the X5, so you have the X5 and you have the IT32 here off camera with the X5 only. There's no well, it's just I don't okay. Let's not get too detailed, but take a screenshot of this. Watch my video. This will make a lot more sense. Because I'm reading it now and I'm getting confused now because I haven't done this in a while. All right. And hello, Sebastian. Good to see you. And Adobe bought Topaz. Yeah, a friend of mine sent me a link to that article. I haven't read it yet. But yeah. So I guess they're going to incorporate I don't know if they bought everything. The title of the article said they bought the upscaling thing. But I don't know if that was in reference to just Topaz in general or that specific product from Topaz. But if they bought Topaz outright, all of their different technologies, that would be really interesting because the Lightroom denoising AI is not bad, but it's not perfect, right? Certainly not as good as DxO. And I didn't find Topaz as good as DxO either. But Topaz has some advantages at the cost of, you know, a little bit less quality. And Henning, good to see you. I'm always in Blinky's mode. No other lighting mode, best of all. Okay. And be great if they release an 860 or V1 size flash to fit on the X5 trigger. Interesting. I think the challenge would be, you know, the This is the IT32, would be this magnetic mount is not that strong. It would probably have trouble holding anything bigger than an IT32, right? I guess they could try, but I think it would be problematic for them warranty-wise. You know what I mean? Because people are going to be, the flashes are going to be falling off. Because let's say you shoot portrait mode, it might be too heavy and fall off the magnet, and then it breaks, and they're going to call it, they're going to have a lot of warranty problems. And you're welcome. I'm glad that helped. Uh, and this is a good time to actually bring up, if you want to support the live streams and the work that I do here, you can buy me a coffee in the links below, or use any of my affiliate links down there. Join me on my other live streams for shopping and editing. All of that is great. Or become a member. It's just 99 cents. And what is the setting in modern mirrorless cameras that you could easily do without to make the camera simple? That's a good question. Easily do without. What would simplify the camera? Because I shoot. I'd probably have to say uh, subject detect. Because, you can always focus and recompose, right? Just use a single point and move it around where you need it. That would be easy. That would be easily, in terms of what it, and when you say modern mirrorless cameras, we're talking about all the different brands, right? I would say the subject detect, because not all brands say have live comp or high res shot mode, and these are not features that complicate the shooting experience. These are specialized features that you would use in certain circumstances. So I don't consider those a interference with the workflow of taking photos, right? They're actually just additional tools. However, subject detect is pretty common across most camera brands now. And if a camera doesn't have it, like my LX100, my Deluxe 8, my EM5 Mark III, I can still go out birding with this. I just select a 5-point group and just track it manually. So you have to rely on your skill set a little more. But yeah, I would say subject detect, which is kind of common across all cameras. Things like focus bracketing. Another feature might be um, exposure bracketing. I could probably do without exposure bracketing, but again, that's used for specialized, it's a tool, it's a specialized feature. And you could argue subject detect is a specialized feature that you only use when you need it, but subject detect includes human or face detect, which can be, I wouldn't say it interferes with my workflow or would simplify the camera by removing it, but it's not as useful as it could be, I guess. I don't know. That's a tough question. And Thomas is here. Good to see you. 29 Celsius. Ooh, that's pretty warm. And here's a tough one for you. What is your favorite photo that you have ever taken? Ooh, that is tough. It's going to be a picture of Ellie. And this is why I miss my L mount system, because I took it with an L mount. But I can show you. Um, that's got to be my favorite photo. I took this with the S1R and the 50mm 1.8, and I need to post-process this a little bit more. I just love this picture of her. And those of you that have been with me a long time know that I got into photography because of my pets, dogs. I started with Riley, who passed away, and then I got Ellie. But yeah, this is my favorite shot. One that, yeah, I treasure. And one that, ironically, I haven't even printed yet. Might be a project for me later today, is to post-process this a bit more, because I did this 3 years ago almost. But yeah, S1R and a 50-1.8. And that's one of my favorite pictures. I have one of Riley that I like too. But this is one of my favorite pictures of Riley. This is way back, 2014. My D7100 and that Sigma 51.4. Okay, there you have it. Those are my top 2 contenders. But since they're different dogs, I would say they're both my favorite. And let's see, Giuseppus asks, if I may, I saw your videos on best settings for beginners, but I can't get the focus when magnify like you do when tap focusing and magnify. Should I use AF auto plus manual? No, it's not AF plus manual. You have to assign a button to magnify. Whew, boy, really jogging the memory here, because I've been using OM3 and OM1 for the last 4 years. And I'm going to need my glasses for this, but I'll try and answer this quickly, and then we'll look at some fireworks photos. So, but I can't get focus when magnify, like when you do tap focusing magnify. Should I use AF auto plus manual? So let me see. I have to assign button, I believe. Let me get out of bracketing mode. I'm going to go into the button menu, but function, come, it's not there. Oh, there it is. All right, so let me get this out of, put this back in the autofocus mode. So as you can see, I'm just in single autofocus, right? And what you want to do is you want to have, I assigned it to a button. So now it zooms in and it focuses. And then if I have AF plus MF on, then I could turn my focusing ring and do some additional focusing, but I have it turned off. But let's put it into SAF plus MF. So I'm going to magnify like so, focus. But now I can manually focus a little bit too, see? But then I can just refocus like that. All right. Oh, I didn't show you how to do it. I was just demoing what you need to do. So go into the menu, right? See, basically the autofocus mode doesn't matter. Just go into the menu. You want to go into B menu for button menu. Go over here, button function, and then select the button that you want to assign. I just assign the ISO button because I'm in auto ISO a lot of times. And if I want to change the ISO button, I can use another button. And then just scroll down until you see magnify. It should be right in here somewhere. There, magnify, click OK. So now the ISO button, you'll see the little magnifying glass icon. And now my ISO button is assigned to magnify. Okay. When I tap focus and magnify, it is blurred. That can be multiple reasons. You're in manual focus, so you have to manually focus, or you're too close. The lens can't focus that close, or there's just not enough contrast. But what you can do is half press the shutter button or assign a back button focus, because you have the EM1 to activate the autofocus. And then if you want to really deep dive, you have focus limiters and other things that could affect it. But most likely it's you need to activate autofocus, or you're too close. All right, I'm going to take a sip and then we'll look at a few firework images. Oh, I got to show you this image. For Prime Day, I used AI to help me generate the images for the thumbnails on the videos. And it made this picture of me. I said, use my picture and put it in here. And it made this ridiculous picture of me smiling. You guys have never seen me smile like this ever, because I'm very melancholy. Another problem with this AI image is I got 3 hands. I got one here, and one here. So it's just kind of hilarious. AI did a really good job. I think that's how I would look if I smiled, but my teeth aren't that straight. And my eyes are not blue. They're a little bit blue in this image. But it's pretty close. Like, a lot of you guys might look at this and say, oh, that's Rob, right? But it's not me. It's a 3-handed version of me. And I'm holding a Sony, which you almost never see. But anyway, and it also added, if you look closely, it added a little window down here to my OM3, and it adjusted the grip. It did all kinds of things. Anyway, I just thought it was hilarious when I made that. Let me find. What's coming up? Hard drives need to spin up. And I see a couple of more questions came in. I will address those. Hearing you are in auto ISO often, do you change upper and lower limits? No. Is there a metering mode? Hearing you are in auto ISO often, do you change the upper limit? And is there any means of not having it make things seem overexposed? Is there a metering mode? No, you just have to dial in exposure compensation. So when you're in auto ISO mode, and most of the cameras, even in manual mode, you have to set it. But in manual mode, you can do exposure compensation and it'll adjust the ISO if you're using auto ISO in manual mode. And I just dial in negative exposure comp, and you just have to get an eye for the scene. The other thing I do is I set my blinkies on, highlight shadow indicators, to help me with that. And I also use, I also adjust the histogram settings. So there's two things I do. One is exposure comp, use the highlight shadow blinkies, right? So that's kind of one thing. And then I adjust the histogram settings. So I have a video on it, but I can just show you real quick. I believe that's in the D menu or display menu. It'll be in the camera menu on the OM3. I don't remember which camera. So on this camera, it's in the D menu, D3. So settings menu, the wrench menu, D3, histogram settings. And then I adjust that to highlights to 245 and shadow to 10. So what that does is it makes the highlight shadow blinkies come on sooner, right? Well before things start clipping. Because I think if you leave it at the maximum range, 255 and 0, you know, once you see the blinkies come on, it's clipped. You may be able to recover a little bit, but pretty much those highlights and shadows are gone, they're clipped. So I adjust my histogram so that the blinkies come on before things clip. And then I can adjust my exposure comp in a way that minimizes clipping or overexposure. All right. And you thought that was a different look about, yeah, a little bit different. No, well, what I ended up doing with the actual thumbnail is I just inserted my own real picture. So I'll show you. So this is the one I ended up using. I just inserted my own picture. Actually, that's not the one. Hold on. That's still the AI one. Here it is. Yeah, this one I just inserted my own picture. And pretty much with the one I showed before. Okay. And it's program more or less metering mode. No, the program mode just means the camera's going to control the exposure. It's not a metering mode. Metering mode is like spot metering, center weighted, ESP or matrix, or the camera analyzes the highlights and shadows and decides the best exposure in a more intelligent way. And then there's spot high, spot low. There's a lot of different metering modes. And there's also exposure shift option, yes. So if you want the camera to automatically shift the exposure for every shot, you can set it so whatever you think the exposure is, subtract one stop. So you don't have to dial in exposure comp every time. I don't like using that. I haven't run into a workflow in the field that I would need to do that, but it's nice to have that option. Okay, um, let's look at some fireworks pictures and some other shots. All right, so here's one. This one I took with the OM3 and the Panasonic 7 to 14 f4. And if we look at the EXIF data, I did 4 seconds, f11, ISO 100. So I underexposed a little bit compared to the settings I showed you. But that's what the scene asked for when I was trying it out. No, those are the settings I gave you at the beginning, right? So whatever. This is what I used, and this is, uh, let me see if I can show you the straight out of camera. Because that one is processed. Give me a second. TNG. This is the shot here. Do I have a JPEG? Yeah, there's the JPEG. So let me show you the JPEG straight out of camera. Uh, so there's the JPEG straight out of camera, and that's the actual post-process image. So it looks like I got rid of this highlight here because it's pretty much gone over here. And you'll also notice the 7 to 14, I talked about this in an earlier stream, where it has this lens flare. And the problem is I was a little bit too close to the street lamp behind me. It wasn't quite behind me, it was off to the right. So just enough in line of sight of the lens to create this lens flare. I just brushed it out over here, but that is part of the problem. So yeah, I cranked up the saturation, then I brushed in a little bit of light down here for the waterfalls or the fountains, and then I brightened up everything. But it came out pretty good when I processed the raw. If I compare it to the raw image, this is the straight out of camera raw versus the J. I must have had a muted profile or something on the J. I never look at my JPEGs. I don't know why the JPEG was turned on. I normally don't do that. But I think the raw actually looks better than the JPEG in this case. This is the raw image over here. And that's the edited image. And you can see I was relatively close. I was just across the pond here. Hence, you know, all of the settings that I talked about. And then, and I was just using the intervalometer. But there's another raw image of a nice one. Here's a raw image. This one has nice reflections. I need to process this. I put a star on it. So yeah, I'm definitely going to process this one. But you can see the EXIF data. Again, I was doing 4 seconds, f11, ISO 100. So all I'd have to do probably is just a couple of things. Smart lighting, clear view, contrast, just all the auto settings. And then brush out brush out that lens flare. And then just crank up to, let's see, vibrant, and then crop it. Voila. There's another image ready to go, and I could tweak it some more, right? Maybe push the highlights a bit more. Something like that. Bring in the foreground a bit. Okay. So let's see. Here's another one that I processed. Oh, this one I was using my Leica. I was at f8, ISO 100, 4 seconds. So a little bit overexposed, but it came out nice otherwise. I mean, it was close enough. You have about plus or minus 2 stops of exposure latitude when you're shooting on, particularly on Micro Four Thirds, but any camera. I need to work on this a little more. This is not a super interesting, I think, to look at, but I really like this shot for a couple of reasons, but mainly because this is a new fireworks that I've not seen before. Most of the fireworks, they bloom, but this one was really interesting. They made a lot of noise going up. They kind of whistled a little bit when they were going into the air. So it was audibly very interesting, right? And then also, they were all coming out at the same time. So even though this is a 4-second exposure, it actually looked like this to the naked eye. The streaks just lasted a long time underneath. So it was visually interesting and audibly very interesting. And that's why I like this shot, even though this will probably get no likes on Instagram. I love this shot because I was there and I know what happened when I took the shot. Or I know what I was experienced when I took the shot. And then I'm also working on a collage, where I'm overlapping things in Photoshop. I think I might still have this open. Something like this. I'm working on a collage. Uh, I might have to pick a different foreground. This is a little bit too strong. Maybe something with some nicer reflections. But once I get the collage done, I'll post that on my Flickr, and you can check it out there. But those are the fireworks. Okay. And Paul says, I get similar flaring issues with my 7 to 14 f2.8 Pro. I guess it's just the nature of the bullets. Bulb. Yeah, everybody that was with me that was shooting with a wide angle, even the cell phone wide angle lens was getting flare. He had I think it was an Apple iPhone. He was getting flare as well, even on that phone because of where we were standing. So all of them got flare. And there was a couple of shots where I put my arm out to kind of shade the lens, where the flare would go away, but I didn't want to hold it there for 15 minutes. The better thing to do would have been to just move forward about 10 feet, so that the light was further behind me instead of more perpendicular to me. And the problem is, I would have done that because I had time. I recognized it pretty quickly that I should have, but the problem is everybody was behind me, and if I move forward, now I'm in their shot. Because I said I moved up about 10 feet, the flare went away, and I looked back and I said, "Am I in your shot?" And they go, "Yeah, God damn it." Well, they didn't say that, but they would have been upset if I stayed there, right? So I had to move back, and I said, "I'll just brush it out in post. It's not that much." And hey, Rob, did you make the air show in Baltimore? I did not. I was able to get some photos, but condos were not the best. The Connex, I'm not sure what you mean there. Haven't downloaded the computer yet, so not sure how they turn out. Yeah, it was cloudy all day yesterday. I'm going to go tomorrow morning before sunrise because not only is the air show, but there's also the tall ships, right, that are all docked. So I'm going to go tomorrow morning. Hopefully it won't be too cloudy. It's supposed to start to clear up, but I don't know how clear it's going to be at sunrise. But later in the day, it'll be clearer. So I'll get nice clouds and blue skies with low sun, right? So I'll get some nice shadows. I'll have good lighting, but it's not going to be the ideal sunrise like I took a couple of weeks ago in Alexandria. The Alexandria shots I was pretty happy with in terms of the sunrise and the cloud cover. So hopefully tomorrow morning will be good. 40 plus watching, only 9 thumbs up. It's okay. But thanks for the reminder. If you guys enjoyed this stream, hit the thumbs up. Not the best conditions, thank you. You know, a younger version of me would have been able to figure that out. What you meant by Con X, right? I'm just getting too old. All right. Let me show you a couple of my air show shots. And we'll start here. Now, a lot of these I use my 300 f4 Pro. So I didn't have my shutter speed up high enough, so I got some motion blur, but I'm at 1/2000th of a second. But you know, they're doing their acrobatics like I mentioned last week. The air shows here in the US are just about the acrobatics. We don't always necessarily have, you know, these grandeur, you know, where they're flying in between caverns and under bridges and things like that. We only have acrobatic type air shows. But here's a clean shot. I took this one. This was also with the 300 f4. And here's one where the plane on the bottom is pretty sharp, but then the plane on the top has motion blur. So I should have known better. When I looked at my shots from last year, I was at 1/3200th, 1/4000th of a second, but I decided to try 1/2000th. And things are so loud and noisy when you're there. You know, I even if I tried to pixel peep it, I would have had a hard time being able to tell. Because you know, all your sensory inputs are just overloaded when you're there. So I should have just stuck to the settings I used last year. Here they are, 3 in a row. This one, this is also the 300 f4. The reason I mentioned it is because I pulled out my 40-150 kit lens, the Plastic Fantastic, and I got some really nice shots with that too. Yeah, this is the 40-150 kit lens. I would have liked to zoomed in on this guy right here. A little more, because I like these little trails here coming off the wings. But this shot is more about the acrobatics, right? But that's the 40-150. This one also, this is the back to the 300. Some more acrobatics. And this one here, these two are the same shots that I'm toggling between. The difference is this is actually, when I exported it initially, I was like, that's not good, right? I didn't do much post-processing because the space here is too tight. So I just went in and I went into Photoshop and I added some more clouds on the right side so I could balance the image a little bit. I don't like to do that if I don't have to, but for this shot, it really needed it. This was taken with the 40-150. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, this is the 40-150 kit lens, the f4 to 5.6. And, you know, this lens is just a no-brainer. Right now it's on sale for $169 on my deal page. This, just saying. Uh, but I brought out the 40 to 150 so I could capture more of the multiple planes in doing their acrobatics, right, with the smoke. I thought this was a cool shot where the plane was flying just, probably 50 feet above the ground. And I got this shot of the guy watching the plane flying over. It wasn't my intent. I didn't plan this shot, but I really liked how it came out. And I love how everybody's kind of painterly down in here from the heat wave. And the plane is all like distorted from the heat waves. Uh, so yeah, I love this shot. Didn't get a lot of likes on Instagram, but this is probably my favorite shot that I took from this event. Because everyone else can get shots like this. If you're semi-decent skilled photographer, if you have any experience at all shooting planes, these are easy shots, right? This is the 40 to 150. Again, I was capturing a wider shot for the acrobatics. 40 to 150 kit lens and the OM3. I did a little post-processing to make the clouds glow back here. But other than that, it's pretty much straight out of camera. I didn't do much else. And then there's a shot of me from 7 years ago, because I always go to this bar after I go to this area, but I haven't been there in 7 years. And I said, I'm going to come back one day. And they always hire these really attractive bartenders. She's back here. I got a picture of her, but I don't know where it is now. And there's one of me from the other day, right, or last week. This one I took with my cell phone. This one I took with my Pen F and 17 millimeter f1.8. And this one I just took with my cell phone because I didn't have my Pen F. And I think I put these side by side. I guess the biggest difference is just the white balance and what I'm drinking. I just got a Heineken instead. I thought I got it. I couldn't remember, but I knew it wasn't just a domestic beer. I got something else. But yeah, pretty much the same person. I'm a little bit lighter. I was probably 175 pounds in that image on the left. And in this image on the right, I'm 150. So I need to lose about 5 or 10 more, and then I'll be happy. Just the fat. I need to build more muscle, but that's a whole other thing. So that was that. Here's a shot. This I took, yeah, this is my cell phone shot. I thought I had my Leica Deluxe shots in here. But it was going on sunset at the marina. This is one of the docks off of that tiki bar where I went with my friends. And this place, this diner, I wanted to go back to it, but it's gone now. This was 7 years ago, and now it's a tractor sales company. Bert's 50s Diner. This diner was really cool. They had like real jukeboxes in there, and each room had a theme. This is the gas station room, I guess, because they had a gas pump in one of the corners. They had a gaming room, and then they had another room, the Elvis room. And the owner retired and auctioned off all of this stuff. I wish I knew he was auctioning this stuff off. I would have got at least one item. Uh, just but I got pictures. That's good enough. I don't need more junk in my house. I wonder what that jukebox sold for, though. I wouldn't have minded this sign, though. That would have been cool to have. If he auctioned that off, I would have probably got that. Um, but Let me just see. Ah, let me see if I can show you guys. No, it's gone. But it doesn't look anything like that anymore. It's just a tractor sales company. I think they kept the car on top of the building, but that was it. Shooting the angels is like trying to shoot gnats. They're all over the place, and it's hard to track where they're coming from. Yeah, you get a feel for it though. After you've been to a few air shows, you get a feel for it. And they tend to repeat the maneuver or a similar maneuver, so you always get another chance. And Darko says, I saw the Blue Angels about 14 years ago in Fargo, which is 4 hours from City, Canada. We drove down to the US. Oh, cool. Yeah, I think they go year round to different places in the country. And I look more distinguished, I guess. A little more gray hair, right? In August, I will go to Silverstone for the MotoGP. Do you think the 40 to 150 is enough? I don't know. I've never been to it, but probably. Um, if you're on the ground near the cars, then you probably need like even wider. But 40 to 150 would work, say, if you're on the ground next to the track. But if you're up in the stands, it depends where you are in the stands, you know, um, then you might need a longer lens. So I would bring the 75 to 300, the 40 to 150, and the kit lens. Those are the three lenses I would bring. And then you'll be ready for anything, and it won't take up that much space in your bag, right? Those are all tiny lenses. And snowbirds will be grounded until they get new aircraft. Okay. Wow. All right. I don't think I have any other pictures that are really worth looking at. I mean, I took this shot at Meadowlark, but nothing special. I submitted it to the Micro Four Thirds forum for the monthly. They have a monthly competition for flower. This month the theme is flowers, and there you don't get anything for it if you win. It's just for fun. I don't like to enter serious competitions where there's prizes and things and judges, but these little fun competitions every month. I like to look, I go there to the Micro Four Thirds forum and I look at other people's images. There's a really beautiful image of flowers over there right now. Um, it was a little bit above mine. Where, or is it after mine? Yeah, like this double exposure one is beautiful. And then the one right above it, I really like this one too. Whoops, I'm sorry for jumping around. Kier Watson? Yeah, that's beautiful. And then this one, this double exposure one from 535. So it doesn't look like I'm going to win this month, but I don't think I've ever won. My photos are okay, right? Nothing like those. Those are beautiful. And Rob, how do you shoot bees? Generally, if you can go early morning, they're a little bit slower. Sometimes they're just sleeping on the flowers. But uh, I use Animal Detect if you, oh, you have a Z50. But on my OM3 or OM1, I would use Animal Detect. Uh, and it's just spray and pray sometimes. Pre-capture can help, like if they're on the flower, and then you can pre-focus, right, when they're on the flower, and I use Pro Capture to try to catch them flying off the thing. I don't photograph them that often. I think I might have one shot this year where I was trying. I have this one, and I thought there was another one. I have another one. I just didn't think it was a little bit out of focus. I just have this one I think I showed. But I would focus on the bee with pre-capture, Animal Detect, and then wait for him to take off and hopefully get the shot. Oh, you'd need to buy them. Well, I would get the 40 to 150 because that's relatively cheap. If you have the budget, also get the 75 to 300. But I assume you have a kit lens of some kind or a prime that's more of a normal focal length, like a 25 or 20 or 17 or 15, something, something in a more normal range that you're shooting with now. I just assumed it was a kit lens. But I would get the 40 to 150 first, and then the 75 to 300 after that. And Larry says you're going back and forth between the 75, 300, and 100 to 400. Such a weight difference. Thoughts? Yes. So if your goal is to ultimately get the 300 millimeter f4 prime, I would get the 75 to 300 right now and save up for the 300 prime. That's what I would do, or that's what I recommend. What I did is I have the 75 to 300. All right, let me rephrase that. Years ago, I started with the 75 to 300, and then I had a chance to try the 100 to 400 and the 300 f4 prime. And I decided to save up and wait till I could get the 300 f4 prime. That said, if you never intend to buy the 300 f4, then get the 100 to 400 hands down. It is, it has more reach. You can use teleconverters. It's very sharp, nearly as sharp as the 300 f4. Okay. For all intents and purposes, it's just as good. Where it falls short of the 300 f4, and the reason I decided to save up for it was the 300 f4 has extremely fast autofocusing motors. Point A to point B is like that. Okay, they're fine in the 100, 400, the 75 to 300, good enough for most things. But when I was doing hummingbirds, I could tell the difference. When the birds are flying towards me and away from me, or I needed to snap focus very quickly before they took off. Hands down, 300 f4, autofocusing motor is very fast. Number two, the 300 f4 is an f4. So I'm getting at least one stop better light into the lens, onto the sensor. And at 300 millimeters, right? And that alone, you'll get better images because you'll be able to shoot a lower ISO or faster shutter speed, right? And number three, and this is minor, but it's smaller and lighter than the 100 to 400. So all those reasons, I had the 75 to 300. I decided to save up. Now, if that's like a $3,000 lens now, right? I would never, or more. I would not save up. If you don't intend to buy that lens, get the 100 to 400. Don't bother with the 75 to 300. If you're going to be serious in doing wildlife photography a lot, if you're only going to go out once in a while, 75 to 300 because it's compact, lightweight, right? And I would say it's not as sharp as the 100 to 400, but good enough. You know, it's 1/3 the price, right? But it's more than good enough. I have so many great images with that lens. That combined with DxO optics module and sharpening, I can pretty much get the 75 to 300 to look just as good as my 300 f4 prime. But ultimately, you know, the differences are there, right? The 100 to 400 is faster, sharper than the 75 to 300. The 300 is faster and sharper than the 100 to 400. And I don't find myself missing this being able to zoom in and out very much because I'm always trying, you know, the birds are always so far away. Okay, Darga says, Rob also wanted to ask about straight out of camera black and white shots. Do you use monochrome mode when you go out to visualize things better? Yes. So if my camera has the black and white mode, I do, because normally I only shoot black and white on my Pen F or OM3. I'll dial it in the monochrome mode. I'll dial in the filter effects like the red filter, blue filter, you know, the color wheel filter, and I can see the effect in the camera. But to be honest, if I do plan to go out and shoot black and white, I will bring my Pentax monochrome camera, in which case I have an optical viewfinder and I'm seeing everything just as I would with my naked eye. You know, I can always play it back after I take the picture, but when I'm composing the picture, you know, I can see it. And what I would recommend is, you know, just use the black and white mode so you can see the black and white on the screen. But I would encourage you to try shooting in color mode, right? And converting it to black and white so you can see the color response of your sensor. Because you need to get a feel for when you look at reds, greens, blues, yellows, all the different colors, how is that going to translate into a grayscale or shade? I found that like green and red, a lot of times when you can, you know, it's a very stark contrast visually, right, to our eyes, but in black and white, they look almost exactly the same. So it's you know, as a learning process, I think it's good to shoot in color, convert in black and white to see the color response when you do black and white photography. And this is what was back in the film days, you know, we would use actual color filters, red filters, yellow filters, orange, blue, whatever, because we understood how luminance based on color, because luminance can be the same, but our perception of luminance based on the color is different, right? So anyway, short answer is yes, I shoot in black and white. I will use the black and white screen, but I prefer using my Pentax monochrome. But that requires, you know, a little bit of understanding of the color response when it's only captured in true black and white. Not color response. It's not like a color film, but the luminance of different colors, being able to see the kind of the luminance of different colors when it's converted to black and white. And Marsha's here. Good to see you. And let's see. The TC 1.4Z 700 CADs. Yeah, it's expensive. And the F2 F mount TC is 200 to 500, but mostly use the 1.4, 1.7. The 2.0 is too soft and just for scoping in my, yeah. And that's common. You know, the teleconverters do tend to degrade the image as the higher the magnification. So I only use a 1.4 because the degradation is quite minimal. That just a little bit of slide on the sharpening fixes it right up. For me, anyway, it's good enough for me. But 2.0 I found a little bit too soft. I'd rather just crop in rather than add pixels. I would just crop in and it was pretty much the same. Thanks for the explanation. You're welcome. And let's see. All right. That's it on the chat section. So any other questions or comments? Ooh, my neck. Maybe I should call it here. Let me just take a moment to share one other thing. I started a new shopping page for items under $20. So there's the link, robtrek.com/deal20, and then robtrek.com/deals. So I have two different pages now, one for things under $20. So that'll take you to this page, and I try to find things that are good deals under 20 bucks. So just to give you an example, you can get this tripod. You can get, oh, this flash, this was on this was under $20 for Prime Day. It's gone up. But get this flash, it's pretty much the same thing. It's 2 watts less power. It's a 20 watt instead of a 22 watt. So you can get this tripod, this flash, any of these bags, but let's say this bag here, right? For 13, and a strap for 20, and microfiber cloth, and a filter set. So filter set, microfiber, there's 20 bucks. A strap, that makes it $40. A tripod, that makes you 60 bucks. A flash puts you at $75. And then a bag for another 20 bucks, $95 plus 5 or 6% tax. You're at 100 bucks. So for 100 bucks, you can get all of that. Everything you need to get started in photography. A bag, a tripod, a filter, a strap, you know, a quick release strap. Let me be more specific, because the cameras usually come with a strap, right? But quick release strap and filters, all of that. And you're ready for anything. So that's why I put this page together, because when you start combining things, you think about $100 in photography. What is that going to get you? It can get you quite a bit if you know how to shop, right? You don't have to spend $100 on a sling bag. You can get one of these for like $15. And I will earn a commission because I'm an affiliate for Amazon, and it helps support, you know, the live streams I do here and the work that I do here. So it's greatly appreciated. But anyhow, we'll call it there. So thank you everyone for joining me today. I really appreciate all the support and the community we have here, that we've been together for such a long time. And I look forward to being together for many years to come. So eat healthy and exercise. I hope you have a great day. Do that every day. You'll have a good life. Thanks for watching, and I'll see everybody again soon.